What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to take you guys through my own transfer plan for the upcoming Game Week 16. So we have returned to the normal schedule of 1 week between Game Week 15 and Game Week 16, so a lot of time to kind of contemplate our transfer moves for the upcoming game week, and because I do have 2 free transfers, we can almost do a little bit of a mini wildcard. But unfortunately, with more options come more decisions, and this season has been particularly tough to kind of nail down those perfect moves to do. But hopefully in this week, we're going to nail those moves down, and before Game Week 16's deadline, we're going to have narrowed down our options, and we're going to select the optimal approach. So in this video, this is purely going to revolve around my transfer options and deciding which option I currently am set on. So that's something you guys are interested in? Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. But before that, a quick word from our sponsor. This video has been sponsored by FantasyFootballFix.com. Use the website or their newly updated application. Make use of their price predictor tool to check your own players' prices as well as who's dropping and rising in price. Improve your rank by making use of their advanced tools as well as the algorithm, which helps back up your own FPL decisions. Win your mini leagues by keeping track of your main mini league rivals. Upload your FPL squad for free at FantasyFootballFix.com. So as I mentioned in the introduction, we've returned to the usual schedule of 1 week breaks between Game Week 15 and Game Week 16, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to be having any football this midweek. Unfortunately, we're still going to have the European football. It's going to be the Champions League, the Europa League, and also the Conference League coming up on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings. We actually still do have one fixture that's still going to be taking place in Game Week 15. It's going to be Everton taking on Arsenal, which hopefully provides us managers with a few more points considering the fact that Game Week 15 hasn't been that great. One thing to keep your eyes on is that Arteta has come out in that press conference on Sunday and said that Smith Rowe potentially is injured and he might not be featuring tonight against Everton, which will be quite a bad thing considering the fact that I do have Adam Armstrong first on my bench, so I do actually hope that Smith Rowe plays and gets a return or two. But focusing more on the European football, the Champions League, Europa League and Conference League all have their last fixtures of the group stages, which means 2 things. One thing is that if teams have managed to qualify in their group with 1 fixture to spare, there might be some rotation there, or the second option is that if they haven't qualified, you definitely are going to be seeing a full starting 11 or the full strength starting 11 going into that fixture. So luckily in the most important competition, the Champions League, most of the English teams have actually qualified with a game to spare. But with the Champions League, there is a caveat that if they do get a win in that respective fixture, there is quite a healthy cash bonus. So you might also see some full strength sides coming out of the Champions League. But my kind of thinking is that before the festive period, before this hectic Christmas period, we might see some rotation this midweek with some of those more premium attackers, defenders and midfielders. In terms of the Europa League, the Conference League, those teams, are not really looking at them that much. Maybe with the Sonic Kane we are. We also do have West Ham, but they usually rotate their squad quite well in these kind of European competitions. Not really worried too much about Antonio. But besides the normal injury risks that I'll be watching out for, I'm going to be definitely looking out for some of that rotation. Because if a player in my starting 11 or a player that I want to bring in is rested this midweek, that's going to be an even bigger bonus because they'll be raring to go, fit and firing for Game Week 16. So just make sure you guys are watching out for this, but I will always update you in the future videos coming up this midweek. But now going on to my concerns / players that I actually want to transfer out from our own FPL side, and I've narrowed it down to 3 options. Now the first one I wanted to talk about is going to be Mbeumo, but he can easily kind of rotate with Smith Rowe if this Smith Rowe injury is actually quite serious and he might miss Arsenal's upcoming fixtures. But right now, I'd rather take Mbeumo out than Smith Rowe because Mbeumo has not been returning that many points, whereas Smith Rowe's actually been quite a nice asset in our FPL teams. But the only downside to actually taking Mbeumo out for Game Week 16 is that he actually has quite a nice fixture against Watford at home. Kind of a promoted derby here, both these 2 sides coming up from the Championship. And the thing about Mbeumo is that he's basically guaranteed to start as usual in that striker position because Ivan Toney has tested positive and will miss Game Week 16 indefinitely. But then again, Mbeumo has not been returning that many points. Luckily in Game Week 15, getting us an assist, finally getting us an attacking return. So I'm just hoping that if we do keep him in Game Week 16, he can kind of bounce on that and get us another one hopefully. But the reason I kind of want to take Mbeumo out from my current team, or maybe a Smith Rowe, is that I do own Salah and Jota already, and I am looking at potentially bringing in a Man City midfielder. And therefore I'd have to upgrade Mbeumo or Smith Rowe. Don't want to kind of downgrade or upgrade Jota, don't want to kind of take out Salah. So Mbeumo, Smith Rowe is the only players that I can manage to take out. But now going on to our more forward line, we've got Harry Kane, and talking about not kind of getting returns in the past couple game weeks with Mbeumo, it's been the exact same situation with Harry Kane, even though the fixtures have actually been quite favourable. Now yes, there has been a little bit of unluckiness with him after Spurs vs Burnley was cancelled due to that kind of snowstorm, but in the past 3 game weeks against really easy teams, he has not returned anything. I mean, just look at game week 15 against Norwich. I put that tweet out a couple of weeks ago. Harry Kane has to score against Norwich, right? Well, yesterday Spurs scored 3 goals and Harry Kane didn't even get an assist. And that's actually the thing that's worrying me about Harry Kane, is that Spurs are actually scoring a few goals, but Harry Kane's not being involved. So it's a little bit of a weird scenario there. Now, if you guys do want to keep faith in him, Brighton away is going to be a lot easier than early anticipated, because Brighton's defense has absolutely been rinsed by injuries. I think they've lost all 3 first team centre backs at the current moment, but the thing about Brighton I remember from previous seasons is that we've spoken about how systematic their defence is, and therefore they're not really focusing on the individual, they're focusing on the system. So theoretically, a player from the reserves, a substitute, that sort of thing, should fit right into that Brighton defence and hopefully keep it as secure as possible as a Sanchez owner. So it might actually be a blessing in disguise if you guys have to keep hold of Harry Kane due to maybe budget restrictions, can't upgrade him, don't want to downgrade him, because on the weekend against Brighton, Brighton's injury list is quite long. But I don't really think that I can keep hold of Harry Kane because he's just so expensive, and I don't need another 2-point appearance from Sir Harold Kane. And the final concern / player to transfer out is going to be Adam Armstrong, and he's definitely a player I want to get rid of because he seems to have lost his place yet again to Broja in that starting 11. Now, it might be a situation of potential rotation depending on who they play, but I just think that Southampton are not scoring enough goals at the current moment to really want me to keep hold of him. But the thing about Adam Armstrong is at that price bracket around that 6.0 million mark, and because there's no other forwards that I potentially want at the current moment, I can simply just bench him for these upcoming game weeks because my subs and my starting 11 usually have good enough fixtures. So definitely a transfer out maybe for a Josh King or a Dennis from Watford. They are quite popular selections at the current moment, but I think the priority right now is to sort out Harry Kane and potentially bring a Man City attacker in. So now that we've kind of spoken about the players I want to take out, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a watch list here, but these are definitely the 2 options that I want to transfer in. So the first one, no brainer there, Cristiano Ronaldo. And if you guys haven't seen the Man United fixtures, you won't understand why I want Ronaldo, but when you do, you'll understand why. So from game week 16 to game week 20, simply outstanding fixtures coming up, and that game week 16 fixture against Norwich, who have just conceded 3 to Spurs, I think that Ronaldo could have a potential field day in that fixture. Now, kind of relating this to the earlier talking point about the Champions League, I really want to see Ronaldo rotated in this midweek because United have wrapped up qualification, and I am hoping for a rest for CR7 because he's had quite a hectic schedule at the current moment. Harry Kane both coming in at 12.3 million, and Fantasy Football Fix projected points of 40.5, which is relatively quite high. So the fixtures look great, the form is okay at the current moment, maybe a new manager bounce under the new United manager, and the nice thing about Ronaldo is that it currently looks like he's going to be on penalties as well. Now this might not be a true fact, Bruno Fernandes, Ronaldo could actually share penalties, but I do think considering the fact that Bruno Fernandes missed the last couple and Ronaldo scored his last one, which was a couple of game weeks ago, I do think he's the number 1 man at the penalty spot. So I do think Ronaldo is currently the player that I want to bring in the most just because that game week 16 fixture against Norwich is the best fixture in my opinion. It's a little bit of a pity it's not a home fixture, but it is what it is, and we will be getting that fixture a little bit later on into next half of the season. So this would be a really easy move, Kane to Ronaldo, and now let's see the next option that I could opt for. And the next player that I really want to bring in, and the reason why I'm talking about them both individually, is that I can't afford them both at the current moment unless I do opt for a hit, which I'm not too keen on. And the reason I'm not too keen on this is that they do face Wolves at home, and Wolves, like they saw in game week 15 against Liverpool, are quite a defensively assured team. So definitely not the best going forward. They're going to seem to counter-attack Man City exactly the same that they did against Liverpool. And I might have actually rethought about this if it was a midweek fixture. But because Wolves are getting a full week's rest between Liverpool and Man City, I think they'll be raring to go for this game. And I'm pretty sure they'll feel quite hard done by losing that Liverpool game in the last seconds of that fixture. So I think they'll be raring to go for this Man City one. So in terms of Bernardo Silva, I think that Ronaldo is more of a priority at the current moment just because I would rather bring them in before game week 17, and that's why I'm a little bit skeptical about going for one in game week 16. But 7.5 and the amount of points that Bernardo Silva has been getting in the form that he's been showing, he can basically score against anyone, and therefore it might be worth bringing him in before the bandwagon gets too high. Now I just want to put a disclaimer out that in terms of a Man City midfielder, I will be discussing this in the ultimate guide coming up later on in the week, and therefore I'm just using Bernardo Silva as kind of a poster boy for Man City, as his form is the best out of all the midfielders. The fixtures over this festive period from a Man City point of view look simply outstanding, and if one of the most fixture-proof teams in the Prem has great fixtures, that's kind of a double positive to go for. Let me know in the comments down below, who would you guys rather bring in, Ronaldo or Bernardo Silva for this current game week? It could not be Bernardo Silva, might be a Foden, might be a Gundogan. You guys can just let me know in the comments down below. Always like to see what you guys are doing for the upcoming game week. And now going on to the transfers that I could actually do that incorporate these two watchlist players. And the first one was the simple one that I mentioned. It's going to be Harry Kane to Ronaldo with one free transfer. I do have two free transfers, so I just wanted to kind of space this out into one free transfer and then one free transfer, just to show you guys what I could potentially do in the upcoming game weeks. So what I also decided to do was go over to Fantasy Football Fix, and I took from Game Week 16 to Game Week 22 and looked at the projected points of these respective players, and when you look at them, it's a simple no-brainer. So 29.2 points projected for Harry Kane versus 40.5 for Ronaldo just simply tells you this is a great free transfer to do if you guys do want to make it for Game Week 16. I'm actually really interested to know if any of you guys have actually done this move already before the Champions League, just because you're so angry at Harry Kane and did a little bit of a rage transfer on Sunday evening. Now, if I had to do this transfer for Game Week 16, I probably would only do one free transfer for the upcoming game week and then keep two for Game Week 17, just because I want to bring in a Man City attacker later on into the season. Just because I want to bring a Man City option in as soon as possible. But if I did want to kind of negate that one free transfer and use two free transfers, the other move that's a simple no-brainer is going to be Adam Armstrong out for Josh King. So between Josh King and Dennis is a whole other debate that I will be going through in the ultimate guide coming up. These two players are super popular because Watford's fixtures do turn in Game Week 16. So I think they have about 4 or 5 fixtures on the trot that are going to be green, and Watford at the current moment, although didn't have the best performance against Man City, from an attacking point of view, they still do look quite strong, and therefore these two options should be great value. I also spoke about Adam Armstrong losing his place in that starting 11, and therefore another no-brainer, even looking at the projected points from Fantasy Football Fix. 16.9 versus 27.2 heavily favors Josh King, especially if it's going to be with the free transfer. But now going on to the second option that I actually could do, but this is going to be a little more spicy, and it's going to be using those two free transfers to bring in a Man City option for Game Week 16. So unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier on, I can't bring Bernardo Silva and Cristiano Ronaldo in with only two free transfers, and I have to kind of extend that to taking a hit and maybe downgrading an Adam Armstrong to a 4.5. Now that will kind of ruin my structure of my team, but I do think it's worth it if I wanted to bring in Ronaldo and Bernardo Silva, and that might be a consideration that I should look at before Game Week 16. But if I had to use only two free transfers, which I could actually do, it would be Harry Kane and Mbeumo out, or Smith Rowe depending on the situation, for Bernardo Silva / Foden and an 11.0 million forward. Now the reason I'm not too keen on actually doing this is that the current forward market is absolutely terrible, and there's not many options even at this price bracket that I actually am looking at. The only one I might be tempted by is going to be a Gabriel Jesus, just because those Man City fixtures look simply outstanding, but there is always that pep roulette, and two Man City attackers might be too much or putting too many of my eggs in one basket. Other considerations could be an Ollie Watkins, but I would rather make that move before Game Week 17 because then they do face Norwich and I think Burnley away. The other thing to also take into consideration is they do face Wolves at home, and I would be missing out on that Norwich away game for United, which I think is going to be quite a high scoring affair. But if I did opt for this transfer plan, I would get a lot of value because I probably would go for someone like a Jesus and Ollie Watkins, and I would have a lot of money in the bank for another move that I could do before Game Week 17. I could even bring in maybe another Man City midfielder if I chose to kind of go for this transfer plan, but I might kind of stretch my budget too much around the team, and that would leave my team structure a little bit not as flexible as I would want it over this festive period. As I mentioned, Bernardo Silva could also be for Foden. You would just decrease that value from the forward, but that still leaves you with quite a large chunk of change in the bank if I had to do this move. Let me know in the comments down below, which two of these transfer plans do you guys agree with more? I think I'm slightly leaning towards the Ronaldo move just because that does leave me with two free transfers for Game Week 17, and then we can assess the Man City situation before that Leeds at home game and choose between Foden, Bernardo Silva or Gundogan. But this is basically wrap the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for loads of content coming up this midweek, so make sure you guys hit that bell notification so that you're notified whenever I do upload a video. But I'm going to be signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.